In Willow Creek's shadowed pines, a bloodied dog sparks a girl's fight against danger to save him. Welcome to Pause Verve. Like and share this video with those who need love. The autumn sun sank low over the jagged hills of Willow Creek, Montana, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose as it filtered through the dense canopy of towering pines. Evelyn Carter trudged along the gravel shoulder of the winding dirt road, her worn sneakers scuffing against the earth, kicking up faint clouds of dust that shimmered in the fading light. Her backpack bounced lightly against her thin frame, the straps digging into her shoulders, but she barely noticed her hazel eyes scanning the forest floor, not for treasures but for a fleeting sense of peace. At 10 years old, Evelyn carried a quiet weight, her heart heavy with the absence of her mother, who had slipped away 3 years ago to an illness that left their small cabin on Maple Lane steeped in silence. The long route home was her ritual. Past the murmuring river with its glassy surface, past the shuttered general store, its faded sign creaking in the breeze, anything to delay facing her father James, whose tired frown and clipped words filled the house with shadows. Today the air felt crisper, the scent of pine and damp earth sharper, as if the world held its breath. As Evelyn rounded a bend, her gaze snagged on something unnatural, a smear of dark red staining the pale gravel like spilled paint, stark against the muted tones of the road. Her breath caught her feet rooting to the ground as she traced the stain to a ditch where a massive Labrador retriever lay collapsed, his black and tan fur matted with blood and dirt. One leg twisted at a grotesque angle, his body curled as if shielding itself from further harm. His sides rose faintly, each breath a labored shudder, yet when his amber eyes flickered open, meeting hers, a spark of recognition flared bright and unshaken. Evelyn dropped to her knees, heart hammering in her chest. Most would have screamed or fled, but she was not. Most her empathy forged in the fires of loss. She shrugged off her scarf, its soft blue threads fraying at the edges, and draped it gently over the dog's trembling body. Her hands trembling too, as she whispered words of comfort, though her voice wavered with fear. The road stretched empty. In both directions, the pines swaying in the cool breeze, their needles whispering secrets she could not decipher. Evelyn stood waving her arms, shouting for help, her voice thin against the vastness of the forest, swallowed by the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a crow. Minutes dragged on, each one, a weight pressing against her hope, until the low rumble of an engine broke the silence, a rusty blue pickup slowing to a stop, its tires crunching gravel. Mr. Thomas Reed, the town mechanic, leaned out, his weathered face creased with concern, his grey eyes narrowing as he took in Evelyn's frantic waving. She pointed to the ditch, her words tumbling out in a rush about the dog, his injuries, the urgent need for the vet, her voice cracking with desperation. Mr. Reed climbed out, his boots heavy on the ground, hesitating as he eyed the dog's size, the sheer power still evident despite the wounds. He muttered something about danger, about wild animals, but Evelyn's plea cut through, sharp and unyielding. "He's dying, we can't leave him alone." Her words hung in the air, raw and undeniable, stirring something in the old man's weathered heart. With a curt nod, he grabbed a tarp from the truck bed, its edges frayed from years of use, and knelt beside her, showing her how to slide it beneath the shepherd's body, their hands careful yet urgent. The dog whimpered once, a soft broken sound that pierced Evelyn's chest, but he did not resist, his eyes never leaving her face. Together they lifted him, wincing at the weight and the faint shudder that ran through him, settling him into the truck bed where the tarp cradled his broken form. Evelyn climbed in beside him, ignoring Mr. Reed's protest, her knees pressed against the cold metal as she cradled the dog's paw, its warmth grounding her racing thoughts. The truck lurched forward, speeding toward Willow Creek Veterinary Clinic, the wind whipping Evelyn's hair into her eyes, but she did not look away from the dog. His eyes flickered open again, locking onto hers, and in that fleeting exchange she felt a promise take root deep and unspoken, one she could not yet name but would not break. The road blurred beneath them, the pines a dark smear against the twilight, but Evelyn's world narrowed to the dog's shallow breaths, to the faint thump of his tail against the tarp, a sign he was still fighting. She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper, telling him he was safe, now that she would not let him go, her words as much for herself as for him. The clinic's lights glowed in the distance, a beacon in the gathering dusk, and Evelyn's heart clung to that light, to the hope But they were not too late. The pickup truck screeched to a halt outside Willow Creek Veterinary Clinic, its tires spitting gravel as the fading light cast long shadows across the peeling paint of the building. Evelyn Carter clung to the Labrador Retriever's paw in the truck bed, her scarf still draped over his bloodied fur, her heart racing as Mr. Thomas Reed leapt out shouting for help. The clinic door swung open, revealing Dr. Sarah Ellis, a woman in her late 40s with kind eyes and sleeves, rolled up, her expression shifting from exhaustion to urgency as she took in the scene. Evelyn slid out of the truck, her voice trembling. As she explained the dog's injuries, the blood on the road the way his eyes begged to live. Dr. Ellis knelt beside the dog, her hands moving with practiced care, assessing the twisted leg, the deep gashes, the faint pulse beneath his matted coat. She called for her assistant, barking orders to prepare the operating table, her voice steady, despite the clinic's cluttered shelves and the sign in the window announcing its final week. Evelyn followed as they carried the dog inside her sneakers, squeaking on the tiled floor, the sterile smell of antiseptic sharp in her nose. Dr. Ellis pointed to a military tattoo inside the dog's ear, a faded string of numbers and letters, marking him as a K9 likely abandoned, after service his name Duke, according to the chipped tag. Evelyn's chest tightened at the thought of Duke, alone bleeding in the dusk, his loyalty discarded like an old tool. She stepped closer, her small hand resting on his flank, promising he would not be forgotten again. Dr. Ellis warned the treatment would be costly. The clinic barely had resources for routine care, let alone a case this severe. But Evelyn's resolve hardened, her eyes fierce with a fire that belied her 10 years. She declared she would raise the money, sell her paintings, do whatever it took, her voice unwavering despite the tears prickling her eyes. Before Dr. Ellis could respond, the clinic door burst open and James Carter stormed in, his steel-toed boots thudding against the tile, his face flushed from a long shift at the logging yard. His dark eyes landed on Evelyn, then Duke, his jaw clenching as he demanded to know why she was here, risking herself for a stray. Evelyn stood her ground, her voice quiet but firm. Duke is not a stray. He is a soldier. He fought to stay alive. James scoffed, pointing at the massive dog on the gurney. That thing could be dangerous. We cannot afford this, Evelyn, you know that. His words stung sharper than the cold outside, reminding her of the bills piling up at home, the way he shut down whenever she spoke of her mother. Dr. Ellis intervened, her tone calm but authoritative. Duke is sedated and trained, a military canine who served our country. His injuries suggest he was abandoned, not feral. Evelyn looked at her father, pleading. He wagged his tail for me. He trusts me. James's expression darkened. We cannot save every broken thing, his voice low but heavy with a grief Evelyn knew too well. She stepped forward, her small frame trembling. With defiance, I'm not trying to save everything, just him. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the faint beep of a monitor tracking Duke's heart. Dr. Ellis spoke softly. Duke fought to survive out there. That takes something rare. Duke stirred, then his paw twitching under Evelyn's hand, his eyes opening just a sliver to find hers. Evelyn felt the weight of that gaze, a silent vow binding them through pain and hope. Outside, the wind rattled the clinic's loose shutters, the last light of day fading into twilight. Inside, Evelyn stood by Duke's side, her father's silence. A wall she could not yet breach, but her heart anchored to the dog who chose to live. She did not know how she would keep her promise, but she knew she would, her determination a spark in the dim room. James turned away, his shoulders slumped, muttering about getting the truck, but Evelyn caught the flicker of doubt in his eyes, as if Duke's survival challenged something deep within him. Dr. Ellis began stitching Duke's wounds, her hands steady, but her face etched with worry about the costs, the time, the slim chance of full recovery. Evelyn watched every move, her mind already racing with ideas, sketches. She could sell posters. She could make anything to give Duke the chance he deserved. The clinic hummed with quiet urgency, the assistant rushing for supplies, the machines beeping in rhythm with Duke's faint breaths. Evelyn leaned closer to Duke, whispering, "You are not alone anymore," her words a lifeline for them both. The world outside grew darker, but in that small, sterile room a fragile hope took root, one that Evelyn would guard with every ounce of her strength. The morning light filtered through the lace curtains of the Carter cabin on Maple Lane, casting Soft patterns across the worn kitchen table, where Evelyn sat her flannel pajamas loose on her small frame. Her paintbrush moved carefully over a canvas, tracing the outline of Duke's amber eyes, trying to capture the sadness and strength she had seen in them at the clinic. The house was quiet. Too quiet, her father James already gone for an early shift at the logging yard, his absence a familiar ache. Clara, her grandmother, shuffled in from the hallway, her steps slow, her hands trembling slightly as she set a chipped teapot on the stove. Evelyn barely looked up, her focus consumed by the painting, each stroke a way to hold on to Duke, to believe he would pull through. Clara poured tea, the steam curling in the cool air, and slid a mug beside Evelyn, her voice gentle. "You did not sleep again, did you?" Evelyn shook her head, her fingers tightening around the brush. He was in pain. I could feel it. Clara sat across from her, rubbing her wrist, her eyes tracing the canvas with a knowing look. "You cannot carry all his hurt, sweetheart. Let Dr. Ellis do her work." Evelyn dabbed more paint, blending shadows into Duke's fur. "He only trusts me, Nana. I have to help him." The words hung heavy, a truth Evelyn felt in her bones, as if Duke's survival was tied to her own. Clara's gaze softened her lined face, holding stories she rarely shared, and she reached for an old sketchbook tucked on a shelf, its pages yellowed and smelling faintly of lavender. She opened it, revealing drawings of wildflowers and birds sketched by Evelyn's mother years before her illness stole her away. Evelyn's breath caught as Clara turned to a page showing a Labrador retriever, its form strikingly like Duke's, down to the proud tilt of its head. The sketch bore a faint label, Project Sentinel, and Evelyn's heart skipped. Nana, did Mom work with dogs like Duke? Clara hesitated, her fingers tracing the paper. Your mother was a trainer for a program helping soldiers, veterans. Mostly she worked with dogs that could sense fear or panic, dogs that stayed when no one else could. Evelyn stared at the drawing. Her mother's hand had captured something alive, something loyal, and she wondered if Duke could be one of those dogs. Before Clara could say more, James's truck rumbled into the drive, his boots heavy on the porch. As he entered the kitchen, dark circles under his eyes. He glanced at the canvas, his jaw tight. "We are still doing this, huh? You have school, Evelyn, and we cannot keep chasing strays." Clara shot him a sharp look. "It is morning, James. Give her a moment." Evelyn met his gaze, her voice steady. "Duke is not a stray, he is a hero." James muttered under his breath, "A hero we cannot afford," his words sharp with the weight of unpaid bills and a grief he never spoke of. Clara stood, her voice firm enough. "Both of you, not before breakfast." She turned to Evelyn. "Go get dressed. I will drive you today." At school, Evelyn's mind drifted through math and history, her thoughts tangled in Duke's bandaged leg and her mother's sketch. In art class, Miss Rachel Moore, her teacher, crouched beside her easel, studying the half-finished portrait of Duke. "That is beautiful. Evelyn, is he your friend?" Evelyn nodded. "His name is Duke. He is healing. He needs help." She poured out the story, the roadside, the clinic, her father's anger, her voice soft but urgent. Mrs. Moore's eyes glistened and she placed a hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "We should do something, a fundraiser, maybe get the town to help." Evelyn blinked. Would anyone care? Mrs. Moore smiled. "They will if you tell them you have a gift, Evelyn. Use it." By afternoon, Evelyn stayed late crafting posters with bold letters, "Save Duke, a hero in need," her drawing of Duke's hopeful eyes at the center. Ms. Moore pinned one in the school lobby and sent another to the Willow Creek Gazette. Evelyn walked home, her backpack heavy but her heart lighter, imagining Duke strong again. At the cabin, Clara was waiting with a sandwich and a question. "Did you find what you needed today?" Evelyn nodded. "I think so, Nana. I think Mom would have wanted this." Clara squeezed her hand. "Your mother always believed in fixing what was broken." James came home late, the clink of his keys loud in the quiet house, and Evelyn braced for another argument. But he paused at her canvas, studying Duke's painted eyes, his expression unreadable. He said nothing, just turned to the sink. But Evelyn saw his shoulders soften just a fraction, as if Duke's fight was starting to chip away at his walls. She clutched her mother's sketchbook that night, lying awake under the quilt, the drawing of the sentinel dog glowing in her mind. Duke was more than a stray. He was a piece of her mother's world, a bridge to the past she could still reach. She would fight for him no matter what it cost her, determination a quiet fire that burned brighter than the stars outside her window. The crisp autumn air buzzed with purpose in Willow Creek as Evelyn Carter's posters bloomed across town, their bold red letters proclaiming, "Save Duke, a hero in need," above her vivid drawing of the Labrador Retriever's hopeful eyes. At school, Miss Rachel Moore's art classroom became a hive of activity students, clustering around Evelyn as she explained Duke's story, her voice steady despite the weight of her mission. Miss Moore stood at the chalkboard, sketching out plans for a town-wide fundraiser, her enthusiasm infectious as she proposed an art auction featuring student work with Evelyn's paintings as the centerpiece. Evelyn's heart lifted at the idea, her fingers itching to create more canvases to capture Duke's spirit and rally the community. By noon, the school lobby was plastered with flyers, and Ms. Moore had emailed the Willow Creek Gazette, which promised a front-page feature titled, "Young Artist Fights for War Hero Dog." Evelyn spent her lunch break sketching Duke's silhouette against the Montana hills, her pencil strokes fierce as she poured her hope into each line. After school, she raced to the veterinary clinic, her backpack, bouncing the scent of pine and wood smoke trailing her through the streets. Dr. Sarah Ellis greeted her with a tired smile, taping the Gazette's article to the clinic window. "You are making waves, Evelyn." Inside, Duke lay in a kennel, his bandaged, legs still but his eyes brighter, his tail thumping softly as Evelyn knelt beside him. She whispered to him about the fundraiser, the posters, the town's growing support, her words a lifeline, keeping his spirit strong. Dr. Ellis checked Duke's chart, her brow furrowing. "His vitals are improving, but we need thousands for the surgeries. And rehab, we have maybe a week before we hit a wall." Evelyn nodded, her resolve hardening. "I will paint all weekend, I will make it work." At home, Clara met her with a plate of warm cookies, her frail hands steady as she urged Evelyn to eat. "You cannot save him on an empty stomach." Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, her mother's sketchbook open to the drawing of the sentinel dog, its resemblance to Duke uncanny. Clara watched her work, her voice soft. "Your mother would be proud, you are giving him a chance." James came home late, his boots heavy, his face etched with exhaustion from double shifts. He glanced at the growing stack of canvases leaning against the wall, muttering, "You are turning this place into a gallery. We cannot keep this up." Evelyn met his gaze, her voice calm. "It is for Duke. He deserves it." Clara intervened, her tone sharp. "James, she is doing something good, let her." He turned away, but not before Evelyn caught a flicker of guilt in his eyes, as if her determination stirred memories he could not face. Over the weekend, Evelyn painted tirelessly, her hands stained with blues and browns as she crafted images of Duke running free of mountains under starlight of her mother's hand, guiding hers through the forest. Clara brought tea and stories of her mother's work with veterans, how she trained dogs to sense pain before it overwhelmed their handlers. Evelyn listened, her brush moving faster, each tale weaving Duke into her mother's legacy. By Sunday, neighbors began to arrive, drawn by the Gazette article, and word of mouth, the librarian with a $20 bill, the diner owner with a check, parents from school with coins dropped into a mason jar. Evelyn rolled up her paintings, handing them out with quiet thanks, her heart swelling as the jar filled with crumpled bills. She counted the money that night, her fingers trembling. $312, far from enough, but a start. At school, Monday the fundraiser gained momentum. Ms. Moore announcing a community event at the town hall with music and art sales to boost donations. Evelyn's classmates rallied, some offering to paint, others spreading flyers around town, their chatter key. Hum of excitement that drowned out her doubts. She visited Duke again, his slow wag greeting her like a promise, his wounds healing but his leg still fragile. Dr. Ellis knelt beside her. "We are buying time, Evelyn, but we need more. You are doing incredible work." Evelyn touched Duke's paw, her, mind racing with new ideas, bake sales maybe, or a car wash, anything to close the gap. Back home, Clara showed her a photo of her mother with a Labrador Retriever, its harness marked Sentinel, the same dog from the sketchbook. Evelyn's chest tightened. Mom knew dogs like Duke, she knew they were special. Clara nodded, her eyes glistening. She believed in second chances for dogs and people. James lingered in the doorway, listening, his silence softer now, as if Evelyn's fight was loosening the knots in his heart. Evelyn lay awake that night, her room lit by moonlight, her mother's sketchbook open beside her. Duke was not just a dog, he was a thread connecting her to her mother, to a purpose she could feel, but not yet name. The town's support was growing, but the clock was ticking, and Evelyn knew she had to push harder, to paint more, to fight for the dog who had chosen her. She closed her eyes, seeing Duke's amber gaze, trusting her to keep him safe, her determination a fire that would not fade. The golden light of late autumn spilled across Willow Creek as Evelyn Carter's fundraiser gained traction. The town hall now adorned with banners proclaiming, "Save Duke, a hero in need," her drawings of the Labrador Retriever pinned to every bulletin board. Evelyn sat in the veterinary clinic after school, her sketchpad balanced on her knees, capturing Duke's slow recovery. His amber eyes brighter now, though his bandaged legs still trembled when he tried to stand. Dr. Sarah Ellis adjusted his IV, her voice steady but strained. "We are holding steady, Evelyn, but the surgery costs are steep and time is short." Evelyn nodded, her heart a tight knot, as she whispered to Duke, "We are getting there. You just keep fighting." The clinic door swung open, and a man stepped in, his charcoal coat too crisp for Willow Creek's dusty streets, his hair slicked back, his smile tight, as he introduced himself as Victor Kane from Titan Security Solutions. He flashed a badge claiming Duke was their asset, a military K9 from Project Sentinel lost during a transfer gone wrong. Evelyn's stomach twisted at his cold tone, her small frame rising as she stepped between Kane and Duke. "He is not yours. He is mine." Dr. Ellis crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "Unless you have legal proof he stays here." Kane's gaze flicked to Evelyn like she was a minor obstacle. "You are a kid. You do not understand what this dog is trained for. He is not a pet." Evelyn's voice held firm. "He is a hero, and he chose me." Dr. Ellis backed her up, her tone sharp. "Bring a court order or leave." Kane's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "You will hear from our legal team," and strode out, his polished shoes clicking on the tile. Duke let out a low growl, his ears pinned back, sensing the threat in the air. Evelyn's hands shook as she stroked his fur, her mind racing with fear that Titan could take him. At home, Clara sat at the kitchen table, her frail hands sorting through old letters from Evelyn's mother, her eyes distant, as Evelyn recounted Kane's visit. Clara paused, her voice soft. "Project Sentinel, that was your mother's program. She trained dogs to help soldiers heal from war's scars. Dogs like Duke." Evelyn clutched her mother's sketchbook, open to the drawing of the Sentinel dog, its harness, identical to one in a photo Clara had shown her. The connection felt like a lifeline, tying Duke to her mother's legacy, but also a warning that Titan knew more than they let on. James came home, his face etched with exhaustion from the logging yard, his boots leaving mud on the floor. He listened to Evelyn's story, his expression darkening. "Strangers coming for that dog now. This is getting out of hand." Evelyn met his gaze, her voice steady. "They cannot have him. He trusts me." Clara interjected, her tone firm. "James, this is bigger than you think. That dog is part of something your wife believed in." James turned away, his silence heavy, but Evelyn saw his hands clench as if wrestling with memories he could not voice. At school the next day, Ms. Rachel Moore rallied the fundraiser team, announcing the town hall event would include a bake sale and live music to draw more donations. Evelyn's classmates buzzed with ideas, some baking cookies, others crafting more posters, their support a warmth that eased her fear of Kane. She spent her evenings painting new canvases, mountains under moonlight, Duke running through meadows, each stroke a plea for his survival. The Gazette ran another article with a photo of Evelyn and Duke at the clinic. The headline, "Girl's Mission to Save Veteran Dog Inspires Town." Donations trickled in the mason jar at the general store, now heavy with bills and coins, but Dr. Ellis's latest estimate loomed large, nearly $10,000 for Duke's full recovery. Evelyn visited him daily, reading adventure stories by his kennel, her voice soothing his restless twitches. Duke's tail wagged stronger now, his trust in her, a quiet strength that fueled her fight. At the clinic, Dr. Ellis scanned Duke's shoulder. Finding a faint scar from a possible tracking chip, if it is active, Titan might know where he is. Evelyn's heart sank. "Can we stop it?" Dr. Ellis nodded. "I can try a neutralizing injection, but it might be too late." She administered the compound, the scanner going silent, but her face remained grim. They could have logged his location already. Evelyn leaned against Duke, her forehead touching his fur, promising no one would take him. That night at home, Clara showed her another letter from her mother describing a dog named Shadow, the pride of Sentinel, trained to sense panic and stay loyal through chaos. Evelyn's eyes widened. Shadow could be Duke. He looks just like him. Clara nodded, her voice trembling. Your mother loved that dog. He never came back from his last mission. The words settled heavy in Evelyn's chest, tying Duke to a past she could almost touch. James lingered in the doorway, his silence softer now, as if Clara's stories stirred something in him. Evelyn lay awake, her room bathed in moonlight, the sketchbook open beside her, the drawing of Shadow a mirror of Duke's face. Titan's threat loomed like a storm cloud, but Evelyn's resolve burned brighter. She would paint, she would fight. She would keep Duke safe no matter what came next. The town's support was her anchor, Duke's trust her guide, and her mother's legacy a fire that would not fade. The late autumn dusk draped Willow Creek in a soft grey veil as Evelyn Carter slipped into the veterinary clinic, her sneakers silent on the tile, her heart tethered to Duke, who lay in his kennel, his amber eyes tracking her every move. She knelt beside him, her sketchpad open to a half-finished drawing of him standing tall, her pencil strokes a quiet prayer for his strength. Duke's bandages were cleaner now, his breathing steadier, but the shadow of Victor Kane's threat hung, heavy, making each wag of his tail feel like borrowed time. Evelyn read to him from a tattered book of adventure tales, her voice low and steady, spinning stories of heroes who never gave up, hoping the words would anchor him as they did her. Marty, Sarah Ellis paused her paperwork, her eyes softening as she watched. You are his lifeline, Evelyn. He lifts his head when you come in. Evelyn touched Duke's paw, her fingers tracing the rough pads. He trusts me, I cannot let him down. The clinic was quieter now, the fundraiser's momentum bringing in donations, but not enough to cover the looming surgery costs. Dr. Ellis had disabled the tracking chip in Duke's shoulder, but her warning echoed. If Titan logged his signal, they could come for him any time. Evelyn's chest tightened at the thought, her resolve hardening as she whispered to Duke, "We will fight this together." At home, Clara sat by the fireplace, her frail hands sorting through her daughter's old letters, each one a piece of the puzzle tying Duke to Project Sentinel. Evelyn showed her the latest sketch, her voice trembling. I think Duke is Shadow Mom's dog from the program. Clara's eyes glistened, her voice soft. It is possible, sweetheart, he has the same heart. James entered the cabin, his boots heavy with mud, his face etched with the strain of long shifts. He overheard Clara's words, his jaw tightening. You are digging up ghosts now. This dog is trouble. Evelyn stood, her voice firm. He is family, not trouble. Clara placed a hand on her arm, her tone sharp. James, enough, she is doing what her mother would have done. He turned to the sink, his silence a wall. But Evelyn saw his shoulders slump, as if the mention of his wife cracked something inside him. At school, Ms. Rachel Moore announced the town hall fundraiser was set for Saturday, with Evelyn's paintings, as the main draw, her classmates buzzing with excitement as they baked cookies and strung lights. The Gazette's latest article had spread, online bringing small donations from as far as Bozeman, but the mason jar at the clinic held only $1,200, a fraction of what Duke needed. Evelyn spent her evenings by Duke's side, her stories growing longer, her sketches more vivid, as if she could will him to heal through sheer determination. One night, the clinic's back door creaked open, a sound so faint, Evelyn thought it was the wind, but Duke's ears pinned back a low growl rumbling in his chest. She froze, her heart pounding, as she called for Dr. Ellis, who was in the storage room. The lights flickered, and a crash echoed from the back shelves, toppling vials shattering on the floor. Evelyn clutched Duke's kennel, her voice a whisper. Stay quiet, boy. Footsteps thudded, heavy and deliberate, then stopped. The front door slammed, and silence fell, broken only by Duke's tense breathing. Dr. Ellis rushed in, her face pale as she surveyed the chaos, the back door ajar, a streak of blood on the tile. Evelyn's eyes widened. Duke's kennel was empty. The latch forced open, a clump of his fur caught on the bars. She dropped to her knees, her voice breaking. They took him. He is gone. Dr. Ellis scanned the room, finding a trail of blood leading outside. Not much, but enough to suggest Duke fought back. Evelyn's grief surged into fury, her hands shaking as she grabbed her scarf, vowing to find him. Clara and James arrived minutes later, alerted by Dr. Ellis's frantic call. James knelt beside Evelyn, his voice low. "We will get him back, I promise." The words stunned her, his anger replaced by something softer, something she had not seen since her mother's death. Clara clutched her mother's sketchbook, her voice trembling. "This is not just about Duke. It is about what he means to us all." Dr. Ellis found a security camera feed showing a shadowed figure dragging Duke into a black van, its plates obscured. Evelyn's mind raced. Titan had come for him, just as she feared their cold claim on him, stronger than her love. But Duke's growl, his fight to escape, told her he was still hers, still fighting to return. James touched her shoulder, his eyes meeting hers. "We are not giving up. You hear me?" Evelyn nodded, her tears falling, but her resolve unbroken. Duke had chosen her, and she would choose him back no matter the cost. At home, Clara opened the sketchbook to the drawing of Shadow. Her voice steady. "Your mother wrote about a dog who never left his handler's side, even in the worst storms." Evelyn clung to those words, seeing Duke's amber eyes in her mind, trusting her to find him. The town's support, the fundraiser's hope, now felt fragile against Titan's reach. But Evelyn's heart burned with a fire that would not fade. She would search. She would fight. She would bring Duke home, her promise to him, a light in the gathering. Dark. The first snowflakes of winter dusted Willow Creek as Evelyn Carter stood in the ransacked veterinary clinic, her breath visible in the cold air, her heart shattered by Duke's absence, the empty kennel, a gaping wound in the dim light. The blood-streaked tile and clump of fur told a story of struggle, of Duke fighting against the shadowed figure who stole him away. Evelyn clutched her mother's sketchbook, the drawing of Shadow, now a talisman, her eyes burning with tears, but her voice steady. "We have to find him. He is out there waiting for me." Dr. Sarah Ellis scanned the security footage again. Her face grim, the van's plates were unreadable, but the direction suggested the old logging trails beyond town. James Carter knelt beside Evelyn, his calloused hand on her shoulder, his voice softer than she had ever heard. "We will bring him back, I swear it." The words carried a weight that stunned her, his usual anger replaced by a resolve that mirrored her own. Clara stood by the door, her frail frame wrapped in a shawl, her eyes fierce. This is not just about a dog, it is about family, about not giving up. Before dawn, a stranger arrived at the clinic, his army green parka dusted with snow, his scarred jaw, hinting at a life of hard choices. He introduced himself as Colonel Nathan Holt, a retired K-9 trainer who saw the Gazette article about Duke and recognized the military tattoo from Project Sentinel. Holt's voice was low, but certain. "I trained that dog. His name is Duke. He was the best of our program, loyal to a fault, built for rescue and support in the worst conditions." Evelyn's heart leapt. "You know him? Can you help us find him?" Holt nodded, his eyes scanning the blood trail. "He went off-grid after a mission in Wyoming. Private contractors took him. I thought he was dead until now." James crossed his arms. "Why was he left to die like that?" Holt's face darkened. "Sentinel was defunded. The dogs were sold off to firms like Titan Security. No care, no honor, just profit." Evelyn stepped forward, her voice trembling. "He fought to get back to me. We cannot let them win." Holt agreed, leading them to his truck equipped with maps and a tracker for the logging trails. The snow fell heavier now, blanketing the pines as they followed the faint trail of blood and tire marks into the forest, the air sharp with the scent of frost and sap. Evelyn sat in the back seat, clutching the sketchbook, her mother's drawing of Shadow, guiding her like a compass. Holt pointed to a fork in the trail. "This leads to an old mill abandoned years ago, a perfect hideout." The truck rumbled through the snow, Evelyn's eyes scanning every shadow for a sign of Duke, her heart pounding with hope and fear. At the mill's crumbling entrance, Holt signaled for silence, his hand on a holstered pistol. "Stay close." Evelyn slipped past him, her scarf tight round her neck, calling Duke's name, her voice cracking in the cold. A faint bark answered, weak but real, from inside the mill's sagging walls. They pushed through the splintered door, the air musty with rot and damp. In a corner beneath a fallen beam lay Duke, his fur matted with fresh blood, his flank heaving with shallow breaths. Evelyn dropped to her knees, tears streaming as she reached for him. "It is me. You are safe now." Duke's tail thumped once, his amber eyes locking onto hers, a spark of trust unbroken by pain. Holt assessed the wounds grazed from a bullet. Not deep, but the cold and blood loss was slowing him down. "We need to move fast." They fashioned a sled from broken planks and Holt's tarp. Evelyn whispering to Duke the whole time, telling him stories of her mother's courage, of the meadows they would run in together. The trek back was grueling, the snow piling higher, the wind howling through the trees, but Evelyn held Duke's paw, her voice a steady rhythm against the storm. James pulled the sled, his breath coming in sharp grunts, his face set with a determination Evelyn had never seen. At the clinic, townsfolk had gathered, alerted by Dr. Ellis's calls, their lanterns casting a warm glow over the chaos. Neighbors brought blankets and hot coffee. Ms. Rachel Moore arrived with a clipboard organizing help. Dr. Ellis set up a triage. Space her hand steady as she stitched Duke's new wounds, her voice low. "He is a fighter, but he needs rest and warmth." Evelyn stayed by his side, her hand never leaving his fur, her heart swelling with the town's support, but aching with the fear of losing him again. James stood nearby, his eyes on Duke, then Evelyn, his voice quiet. "I was wrong about him. He is not just a dog." The admission cracked something open in Evelyn, a hope that her father was starting to see what Duke meant to them all. Clara knelt beside her, whispering, "Your mother would have fought for him too." The snow outside thickened, blanketing Willow Creek. In silence, but inside the clinic, a fire burned Evelyn's promise to Duke stronger than ever, her love for him a light that would not fade. The snow fell in heavy curtains over Willow Creek, transforming the town into a hushed white world, as Evelyn Carter sat by Duke's side in the makeshift triage space of the veterinary clinic, her small hand resting on his bandaged flank. His amber eyes half closed but alive with a quiet strength. The clinic hummed with the warmth of community neighbors, hauling in generators and blankets, their faces etched with determination to save the Labrador retriever who had become their cause. Dr. Sarah Ellis moved swiftly, stitching Duke's newest wounds, her voice steady. "He is stable for now, but we need to watch for infection." Evelyn nodded, her heart a tangle of relief and fear. Her mother's sketchbook open on her lap, the drawing of Shadow, a reminder of Duke's deeper connection to her past. Colonel Nathan Holt stood in the corner, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice low as he relayed evidence to a contact, emails, transport logs, proof that Titan Security Solutions had sold off Project Sentinel dogs like Duke to private firms with no regard for their care. James Carter lingered near the door, his work boots caked with snow, his eyes fixed on Evelyn and Duke, a softness there that felt foreign, yet grounding. He stepped closer, his voice rough. "I have spent years blaming dogs for what happened to my brother. He died overseas, his canine could not save him, but Duke fought to get back to you." Evelyn met his gaze, her chest tightening. "Dad, he chose us." James nodded, his hands clenching as if grasping for something lost. "I see that now." The town's response swelled. Ms. Rachel Moore, organizing volunteers to clean the ransacked clinic, the diner owner, delivering hot soup, the librarian setting up a donation table in the town hall. The Gazette ran an emergency update titled "Town." Rallies for stolen hero dogs, sparking calls from across Montana, offering small sums that added to the mason jar now brimming with nearly $3,000. Evelyn's paintings lined the clinic walls, mountains and meadows, each one a plea for Duke's survival, sold to neighbors who saw her heart in every brushstroke. Clara sat wrapped in a quilt, her frail hands folding letters from Evelyn's mother. Her voice soft. "Your mother wrote about dogs like Duke, how they carried soldiers through darkness. She would be so proud." Evelyn clung to those words, her resolve burning brighter as she whispered to Duke, "You are my light too." At the town hall that evening, the community gathered for an emergency meeting, the room packed with faces young and old, their breath visible in the unheated space. Holt took the stage, a projector, casting grainy images of sentinel dogs in cages of shock collars and disposal orders, his voice hard. These dogs were veterans treated like trash. Duke survived because he was trained to never give up. Evelyn stood beside him, her voice small but clear. "Duke is not just a dog, he is family. He fought for me, and I will fight for him." The crowd murmured, their eyes on her. Then Duke's photo, proud in his military vest, his scars a testament to his loyalty. Donations poured in, checks and cash stuffed into jars, a retired teacher pledging her savings, a child emptying his piggy bank. Dr. Ellis spoke next, her voice steady. Duke escaped Titan because he knew where he belonged. We need to protect him now. The room fell silent, then erupted in applause, the sound echoing like a heartbeat. James watched from the back. His arms crossed his face, unreadable, but his presence a quiet shift, a promise to stand with his daughter. Evelyn felt the weight of the town's love, a shield against Titan's threat, but her mind lingered on Duke's. Wounds on the van that took him. Holt shared more evidence Titan had sold half the Sentinel dogs to overseas contractors, some never seen again, their fates sealed by greed. Evelyn's heart ached for those lost dogs, but burned for Duke, her anchor, her reason to keep going. Back at the clinic, she sat by his kennel, reading to him, her voice weaving tales of heroes who found their way home. Duke's tail thumped faintly, his trust in her a fire that warmed the cold room. Clara joined her, showing a photo of Evelyn's, mother with Shadow. The dog's eyes identical to Duke's. Your mother believed dogs could heal what words could not. Evelyn nodded, her tears falling. I think Duke is healing us too. James lingered nearby, his silence softer now, as if Duke's fight had cracked the walls around his heart. The snow outside piled higher, the town hall's lights, a beacon in the storm. But inside the clinic, hope grew fragile yet fierce. Evelyn's paintings sold faster now, each one a step closer to Duke's surgery, but the clock ticked louder. Titan's reach still a shadow she could not shake. She leaned against Duke, her forehead, touching his fur, promising to keep him safe, her love for him a vow that would not break. The community's strength, her mother's legacy, James's quiet change, all wove together a tapestry of purpose Evelyn would carry forward, no matter what lay ahead. She closed her eyes, seeing Duke running free, his scars, a map of their shared fight, her heart ready for the battles still to come. The snow blanketed Willow Creek in a silent embrace, as the town hall glowed with the warmth of a community, united, their voices rising in song and support for Duke, the Labrador retriever, who had woven himself into their hearts. Evelyn Carter stood at the edge of the stage, her small hands clutching a sketch of Duke, her hazel eyes scanning the crowd packed with neighbors, their faces lit by candlelight and hope. The fundraiser had transformed into a movement, Ms. Rachel Moore directing volunteers, who sold Evelyn's paintings and homemade cookies, the mason jar overflowing with nearly $6,000, a testament to the town's belief in a girl and her dog. Colonel Nathan Holt worked the projector, showing declassified Sentinel files, images of Duke in his prime guiding soldiers through disaster zones, his loyalty unshaken by chaos. Holt's voice carried a quiet fury. Titan Security sold these. Dogs-like equipment left them to die when they were no longer useful. But Duke fought to come back to us. Evelyn stepped forward, her voice trembling. But clear, Duke is not just a hero, he is my family. He chose me and I choose him every day. The crowd erupted, their applause shaking the rafters as donations surged, a farmer pledging livestock sales, a shopkeeper emptying her register. Dr. Sarah Ellis took the stage, her eyes tired but fierce. Duke survived the theft. Because he was trained to protect, to return, we owe him a future. Evelyn's heart swelled, her mother's sketchbook tucked in her coat, a reminder of the legacy she carried of Shadow and her mother's faith in dogs who healed broken souls. James Carter stood at the back, his work jacket dusted with snow, his face softer than Evelyn had ever seen, his hands raw from clearing the clinic's debris. He caught her eye, nodding once, a silent promise that he was with her now, his walls crumbling under Duke's quiet courage. Clara sat near the front, wrapped in a quilt, her frail hands clutching a photo of Evelyn's mother with Shadow, her voice low to a neighbor. This is her mother's fight, reborn. The town hall buzzed with energy, children selling hot cocoa, retirees sharing stories of their own dogs, the air thick with the scent of pine and baked goods. Evelyn's paintings lined the walls, each one a window, into her bond with Duke, sold to tearful buyers who saw her love in every stroke. The Gazette reporter scribbled notes, promising a statewide feature, donations trickling in from Missoula and beyond. Holt shared more evidence, Titan's contracts with foreign firms, some dogs shipped to war zones, others abandoned in cages, their fates a shadow over Duke's survival. Evelyn's chest tightened, but her resolve burned brighter. She would not let Duke become another lost name. As the night peaked, the hall's doors burst open, state troopers marching in their boots, heavy on the wood floor, followed by Victor Kane in handcuffs. His polished coat mud splattered his face, pale with defeat. Holt's contacts had delivered Titan's records to the authorities exposing animal cruelty and illegal trafficking. The crowd parted as the troopers approached. Evelyn stood by Duke's photo, her voice steady. "You cannot take him. He is not yours." Kane's eyes locked on her. His voice cold. "You do not know what that dog is. He is a weapon, not a pet." Evelyn shook her head, her words cutting through the silence. "He is family, and you will never understand that." The room exploded in cheers. Duke's image towering on the screen, a proud veteran, not a tool. James stepped beside Evelyn, his hand on her shoulder, his voice low. "You did good, kid." The troopers led Kane away, his threats silenced by the town's unity, the hall vibrating with a victory that felt like a new beginning. Evelyn slipped outside to the clinic, needing to see Duke, needing his warmth to ground her. Dr. Ellis had moved him to a clean kennel, his bandages fresh, his tail thumping as Evelyn knelt beside him. She whispered, "You are safe now, we won this one," her tears falling into his fur. Clara joined her, showing a letter from Evelyn's mother about Shadow's loyalty, how he stayed with a soldier through a panic attack, never wavering. Evelyn nodded. "I think Duke is Shadow. He is carrying Mum's heart." James entered the clinic, his boots quiet now, his voice rough. "I read your journal about your mum, about how Duke feels like her. I get it now." Evelyn leaned against him, her heart full. "You think she would have loved him?" James chuckled. "She would have built him a castle by now." The snow slowed outside, the town hall's lights fading, but the clinic glowed with a hard-won hope. Evelyn's paintings had raised enough for Duke's next surgery, the community's love a shield against Titan's shadow. She sat by Duke, her hand in his fur, seeing her mother's smile in his eyes, her family rebuilding piece by piece. James stayed close, his presence a bridge to a past they could heal together. The town's cheers echoed in Evelyn's mind, a reminder that she was not alone, her fight for Duke a fire that had ignited Willow Creek. She closed her eyes, picturing Duke running free, his scars a map of their shared strength, her promise to him, a vow that would carry them forward. The winter dawn broke over Willow Creek with a fragile light, the snow settling into a soft blanket, as Evelyn Carter sat by Duke's kennel in the veterinary clinic, her breath visible in the chilly air, her heart still racing from the night before when Victor Kane was led away in cuffs. Duke's amber eyes followed her, his bandages clean, his tail giving a slow thump as she whispered to him, "We did it. You are safe now." The clinic hummed with quiet activity, Dr. Sarah Ellis checking Duke's chart, her voice steady. "He is healing well, but we need to keep pushing for his surgery funds." Evelyn nodded, her mother's sketchbook open on her lap, the drawing of Shadow a mirror of Duke, tying him to her mother's legacy of healing through loyalty. The town hall victory had galvanized Willow Creek, the fundraiser swelling to $8,000, with Evelyn's paintings selling faster than Ms. Rachel Moore could hang them. Neighbors lingered in the clinic, offering blankets and coffee, their faces glowing with pride for the girl who had sparked their unity. Colonel Nathan Holt sat in the corner sorting through Sentinel files, his voice low as he spoke to James Carter about Titan's downfall. "They are facing charges now. Animal cruelty. Fraud the works." Duke's case opened the floodgates. James stood nearby, his work jacket slung over a chair. His eyes softer than Evelyn had ever seen, his hands still raw from clearing snow to keep the clinic accessible. He caught her gaze, his voice rough. "I was wrong about dogs, about him I blamed them for my brother's death overseas. His canine could not save him. But Duke fought for you." Evelyn's chest tightened, her voice soft. "He stayed with me, Dad, like he knew I needed him." James nodded, his silence heavy with a grief he was finally facing. "I see that now, kid. I see you too." Clara entered, wrapped in a shawl, her frail hands holding a letter from Evelyn's mother describing Shadow's training, how he sensed panic before it struck, how he never left a soldier's side. Evelyn listened, her heart swelling. "Duke's Shadow is not he is carrying Mom's love." Clara's eyes glistened. "Your mother would have fought for him just like you." The town buzzed with news of Kane's arrest, the Gazette printing a special edition titled "Justice for Hero Dog" as donations poured in from across Montana. Ms. Moore organized a final push at the town hall with a concert and art sale, Evelyn's latest canvas, a vibrant image of Duke in a meadow, drawing gasps from buyers. The community's support felt like a warm embrace. But Evelyn's mind lingered on Duke's fragile leg, on the surgery still needed to make him whole. At the clinic, Dr. Ellis showed her Duke's progress, his wounds closing his strength, returning, but the cost loomed large, nearly $2,000 short. Evelyn spent her afternoons by his side, reading tales of adventure, her voice a steady rhythm that calmed his restless twitches. Duke's trust in her was a quiet fire, fueling her determination to see him run again. James joined her one evening, his presence awkward but earnest. He sat by the kennel, his hand hesitating before resting on Duke's fur. "I never told you why I hated dogs so much. My brother Travis died in a firefight. His dog stayed with him till the end. I could not face that kind of loyalty, not after losing him." Evelyn reached for his hand, her voice soft. "Duke stayed too, he chose us." James's eyes glistened. "Yeah, he did." The town hall event drew hundreds, the air thick with the scent of hot cider and pine, as children sang carols and Evelyn's paintings glowed under string lights. Holt spoke briefly, his voice hard. "Titan's collapse is a start, but we need to honor dogs like Duke with care, not cages." Evelyn stood beside him, her voice clear. "Duke taught me. We do not give up on family, thank you for helping him live." The crowd cheered their donations, pushing the fund past $9,000, a miracle Evelyn could hardly believe. Clara watched from the front, her smile frail but radiant, whispering to a neighbor, "This is her mother's heart shining through." James clapped from the back, his hands steady, his heart fuller than it had been since his wife's death. Back at the clinic, Evelyn sat with Duke, her sketchpad open to a new drawing of him, standing proud, his scars a map of their fight. Dr. Ellis knelt beside her. "We are so close, Evelyn, you have given him a chance no one else could." Evelyn leaned against Duke, her forehead touching his fur. "You are my hero. You know that." The snow outside fell gently, the town's lights a beacon in the quiet night. But inside the clinic, hope burned bright. James lingered nearby, his voice low. "We are going to be okay, kid, all of us." Evelyn nodded, her tears falling into Duke's fur, her family rebuilding through his quiet strength. The community's love, her mother's legacy. James's change wove. Together, a tapestry of healing Evelyn would carry forward. She closed her eyes, picturing Duke running free, his eyes bright with life, her promise to him a vow that had changed them all. The fight was not over, but with Willow Creek behind her, and Duke by her side, Evelyn knew they could face anything the future held. The winter snow gave way to the first hints of spring in Willow Creek, the air softening with the scent of thawing earth and budding pines as Evelyn Carter knelt beside Duke in the veterinary clinic, her hand brushing his fur, now sleek over healing scars. Duke's amber eyes gleamed with renewed strength, his once twisted leg steadier after Dr. Sarah Ellis's meticulous surgery, funded by the town's relentless support. Evelyn whispered to him, "You are almost there, boy. We are going to do great things together," her voice a melody of hope, woven from months of fear and fight. The clinic bustled with quiet pride, the fundraiser reaching $10,000 through Evelyn's paintings, and the town hall's final concert, the mason jar now a symbol of Willow Creek's heart. Dr. Ellis adjusted Duke's chart, her voice warm. He is ready for the next step, Evelyn training to become a therapy dog. Evelyn's heart leapt, picturing Duke helping others as he had helped her, his loyalty, a bridge to healing. James Carter lingered by the door, his work boots polished, for once his face softer, as he watched his daughter and Duke, a bond that had rebuilt their family. He spoke low. "You have done something big, kid." "I am proud," his words a balm to Evelyn's lingering grief. Clara sat in a chair, her shawl loose around her frail shoulders, her eyes glistening as she clutched a photo of Evelyn's mother with shadow. "Your mother dreamed of dogs like Duke, changing lives. You are making that real." The town buzzed with news of Titan Security's collapse, the Gazette reporting formal charges and a state inquiry into Project Sentinel's abuses, sparked by Colonel Nathan Holt's evidence. Evelyn's story had gone viral, a Montana senator inviting her to Helena for a Youth Courage Award, her fight for Duke inspiring laws to protect military canines. At home, Evelyn prepared for Duke's training, sketching him in a therapy vest, her pencil capturing his proud stance. Dr. Emily Vaughan, a therapy dog trainer, arrived in a weathered jeep, her sharp eyes softening as she met Duke. He has presence. This one is special. Evelyn beamed. He saved me. I want him to save others too. Vaughan nodded. It is not about commands, it is about connection. Duke already knows you, he just needs to learn the work. The training began in the Carter's backyard. Duke responding to cues with a focus that stunned Evelyn. Sit, stay, follow his ears, alert, his body taut with purpose. Vaughan taught Evelyn to guide him using gentle signals, her voice a steady rhythm, that Duke mirrored with ease. Clara watched from the porch, her quilt tucked around her. Your mother trained dogs to sense pain before it struck. Duke has that gift. Evelyn nodded, her heart full. I feel her in him, Nana. James joined the sessions, his hands awkward but willing, as he tossed treats to Duke, his laughter rare but genuine, when Duke nudged his leg for more. The town rallied behind Duke's new role. The diner hosting a therapy dog fund to cover his gear, Miss Rachel Moore organizing school visits to teach kids about service animals. Evelyn's paintings continued to sell, each one a story of Duke's journey, hung in homes across Willow Creek. At the Helena Award ceremony, Evelyn stood behind a podium, her voice steady despite the sea of faces. Duke was left behind, but he never gave up. Neither did we. We all need someone who stays. The applause shook the hall, James clapping hardest, his eyes wet with pride, Clara beaming from the front row. Back home, Vaughan fitted Duke with a therapy vest, its blue fabric marked K9 in training. Evelyn buckling it with trembling hands. You look ready, boy. Their first visit was to Willow Creek's senior center. Duke, moving slowly through the halls, pausing as trembling hands reached for him. An elderly woman wept softly as Duke rested his head in her lap. He is like my Rusty, gone 15 years now. Evelyn watched, her chest tight with awe, Duke saying more with his silence than she ever could. At the clinic, Dr. Ellis checked Duke's leg, her voice proud. He is a miracle, Evelyn. You gave him this. Evelyn leaned against Duke, her forehead touching his fur. You gave me this too. James sat with them that night, his voice halting. I never thought a dog could change us, not after Travis, but Duke did. He brought you back to me. Evelyn took his hand, her voice soft. He brought us all back. The town hall hung a banner, Hero Dog in Training donations, now funding other canines in need, a legacy Evelyn had sparked. Clara showed her a final letter from her mother about Shadows, last mission, how he stayed with a wounded soldier until help came. Your mother believed dogs carried light, Duke carries hers. Evelyn nodded, her tears falling. I see her in him every day. The spring air warmed the pines, Duke's limp fading as he trotted beside Evelyn, his vest a badge of purpose. James built a ramp to the porch, his hammer steady, his heart open in a way it had not been since his wife's death. Evelyn set up her easel in the yard, sketching Duke under the sun, her colors bright with hope. The town's love, her mother's legacy, James's quiet strength wove a new family, one forged in Duke's fight. She closed her eyes, hearing her mother's laugh in the breeze, knowing Duke's work was just beginning, her promise to him, a light that would guide them all. Spring bloomed across Willow Creek, the meadows bursting with wildflowers, as Evelyn Carter stood in the backyard of their Maple Lane cabin, her easel set under the warming sun, her brush sweeping vibrant greens and golds to capture Duke basking. In the grass, his therapy vest a proud blue against his sleek fur. The Labrador Retriever's amber eyes followed her, his once fragile leg now strong, his scars, a quiet map of their shared journey from a bloodied ditch to this moment of peace. Evelyn's heart swelled with a joy she had not known since her mother's death 3 years ago. Duke's steady presence a bridge to a family reborn. The town hummed with pride, the veterinary clinic thriving again, thanks to donations sparked by Evelyn's fight for Duke. Dr. Sarah Ellis now planning a K9 therapy program. Inspired by his story, James Carter emerged from the cabin, his work boots softened by dust, his hands carrying a thermos of coffee, a new ritual since he began joining Evelyn and Duke in the mornings. He squatted beside Duke, scratching his ears, his voice low. You are one tough guy, you know that, his smile rare but genuine, a far cry from the man who once saw dogs as pain. Clara sat on the porch, her shawl loose in the warm air, her frail hands holding her daughter's sketchbook open to Shadows drawing her, eyes glistening. This is your mother's light shining through you both. Evelyn nodded, her brush pausing. I feel her Nana every time Duke looks at me. The town hall displayed a plaque honoring Duke's military service, declassified sentinel records revealing his rescues in earthquake zones, his steadfast support for soldiers in crisis. The state capitol added his photo to its wall of honor, a framed copy now hanging above Duke's bed in the cabin, a gift from Colonel Nathan Holt, who visited weekly to check on his old trainee. Evelyn's Youth Courage Award sat on the mantel, her acceptance speech echoing in Willow Creek's memory. "We all need someone who stays. Duke taught me that." The town's support had not faded. The diner hosting therapy dog workshops, Ms. Rachel, more framing Evelyn's paintings for a school exhibit, each one a chapter of Duke's redemption. Dr. Emily Vaughan continued Duke's training, his skills sharpening as he learned to sense anxiety, to guide veterans through panic with a nudge or a steady lean. Evelyn trained beside him, her voice calm, her signals precise, her bond with Duke a language of trust that Vaughan called rare. Their visits to the senior center grew weekly, Duke resting his head in laps, sparking stories of lost pets and forgotten joys, an elderly man whispering, "He reminds me of my boy gone 20 years. Evelyn watched in awe, her heart full, Duke healing wounds she could not see. James joined one visit, his presence steady, as he handed out water, his eyes softening when Duke lay beside a veteran who trembled with old memories. "I get it now," he told Evelyn later. "Dogs like Duke carry what we cannot." Clara shared more letters from Evelyn's mother, each one a testament to Shadow's loyalty, how he stayed through storms, how he taught her to believe in second chances. Evelyn read them by Duke's bed, her voice soft. "I think you are Shadow. You brought Mom back to us." The cabin felt alive again, laughter mingling with the scent of Clara's baking, the silence of grief replaced by shared stories. James built a doghouse for Duke, his hammer. Steady, his heart open, he told Evelyn, "Your mom would have loved this guy. She always said dogs fix what's broken." Evelyn leaned against him, her voice quiet. "She fixed us through him." The town hall hosted a spring festival to celebrate Duke's recovery. Children painting paw prints on banners, the Gazette calling him Willow Creek's heart. Evelyn's latest canvas, a meadow with Duke running free, sold for enough to fund another K9's Care Her. Art now a legacy of giving back. Holt spoke at the festival, his voice proud. "Duke is a veteran, not a stray. His story is changing how we treat these dogs." Evelyn stood beside him, her voice clear. "Duke showed me. We can heal if we stay together. Thank you for staying with us." The crowd cheered their love, a warmth that wrapped Evelyn like a quilt. At home she set up her easel daily, Duke, lying nearby, his tail sweeping the grass as she painted not just what she saw, but what she felt: freedom, courage, home. Clara watched. From the porch, her smile radiant. "What are you painting today, sweetheart?" Evelyn grinned, the part where we are whole again. James joined them, his arm around Evelyn, his voice steady. "We are, kid, we really are." Duke lifted his head, his eyes bright with life, his presence a vow kept through pain and fight. The pines whispered in the breeze, the meadow alive with color. Willow Creek no longer a place of shadows, but a haven of light. Evelyn's brush moved. With purpose, her colors telling a story of a girl, a dog, a family, a town, all made stronger by loyalty. She closed her eyes, hearing her mother's laugh in the wind, knowing Duke's work, his love, her promise, had rebuilt them all. The future stretched. Wide Duke by her side, his scars proof they could face anything, her heart a fire that would never fade.